consciousness is a tricky concept to define. It has a lot of different layers. At its simplest, it means being awake, being alert, and responsive. It's what doctors are measuring when they check for signs of awareness in someone who might be suffering a disorder of consciousness. But for most of us, being conscious is more than just being awake. It's about being aware of the world around us and of ourselves. So take being cold as a simple example. You could be in a room, the air conditioning is blasting away, but you don't notice the chill until someone mentions that the air conditioning is blowing quite violently. And you realize, oh, yeah, I am cold. Suddenly, you're not just cold, now you know that you are cold. This self-awareness, the ability to reflect on our own experiences, is the hallmark of consciousness, and it is one of its greatest mysteries. This awareness, it's spontaneous and effortless. You don't need to will yourself to experience consciousness. It just happens. And yet explaining how and why it happens is extremely difficult. For one, it's not clear why awareness even evolved. You can shiver without being aware of being cold. You can also move towards warmth or cover without being aware of being cold. Plants, for example, don't need to be aware to turn towards the sun. They're not moving in to be warm, are they? But plants thrive. Some scientists have even suggested that humans might not need consciousness at all, that it's possible for someone to act and speak just like the rest of us, but have no actual inner experience. Somewhat like a zombie. A useful analogy might be your smartphone interface. You tap an icon, you open an app. You don't need to know the circuits running behind the screen. Similarly, our consciousness provides a seamless interface to navigate life, but the mechanisms behind it, the neural circuits, remain largely mysterious. And then the deeper challenge is understanding how the brain creates awareness. Our brains are physical systems, much like the objects we observe and use, and yet humans are aware, while the objects they observe are not. Presumably, you don't think your phone is aware. How does physical brain activity produce the rich, subjective experience of being you? That's the hard problem of consciousness, and so far, nobody has an answer. While we clearly struggle to explain how consciousness happens, most neuroscientists do agree that brain activity must play a central role. A head full of sawdust is not going to experience the world, but a head full of neurons just might. Brain activity noticeably changes depending on your state of consciousness. When you're awake, your brain is highly active, processing the world in real time. In deep sleep or under anesthesia, brain activity reduces significantly, but it doesn't go silent. Even in those states, vital functions like breathing and circulation are maintained, and brain activity is necessary for that. Interestingly, during dream sleep, also known as REM sleep, brain activity can be as high as when you're awake. In dreams, vivid experiences occur despite your body being at rest, and this shows that equating sleep with a state of unconsciousness is not quite correct. Hallucinations occur when the brain activates areas associated with real experiences, even when the corresponding external stimuli are not there. So, for example, during auditory hallucinations, the auditory cortex becomes active as if real sounds were present. This has been demonstrated in hypnosis studies. So people under hypnosis have been led to vividly hear voices, or see colors, or feel strong heat, when none of those stimuli were actually present. Their brain activity mirrors their real perception. The auditory cortex activates during voices, the visual cortex activates during colors, and pain processing areas activate during strong heat. And dreams work in a similar kind of way. Sensory brain regions activate and create the immersive sights, the sounds, and the emotions that you sometimes experience during sleep. We also experience mild, everyday hallucinations. When watching a ventriloquist, for example, we perceive the puppeteer speaking even though we know that the sound is coming from somewhere else. In noisy environments, our brains fill in the gaps of incomplete conversations to create a seamless experience. We tend to automatically generate an experience that is most consistent with the sensory details we are receiving rather than having an experience that precisely reports the actual sensory inputs. Our consciousness seems to be less about accurately recording reality and more about constructing a version of it that helps us make sense of the world that we're in.